What motivates people to have hobbies? What are hobbies doing for us aside from curbing boredom? Are all hobbies beneficial to us? These are all questions that one might not think of while engaging in their favorite activity, whether it's hiking, gaming, or baking, but these are important questions nonetheless. In this first module of a 3-part program, I will try to answer these questions and more from a communicative and instructional perspective, accompanied by an introduction to the hobby of miniature painting. However, what is miniature painting? To put it briefly, miniature painting involves exactly as what it's titled, applying paint to small, miniature figures or statues, often for the purposes of tabletop gaming. You use tiny brushes, filling in areas with a desired color, almost like a 3D coloring book. Most of the time, miniatures come disassembled, requiring the hobbyist to cut, clean, assemble, and paint the miniature. Of course, miniatures also come as a single cast piece, such as what you'd find in a regular board game. What makes this hobby unique is that miniature painting is done by a multitude of individuals with varying goals. Some people paint miniatures with the goal of using them in a tabletop game, such as Dungeons & Dragons or Warhammer 40,000. Others, like myself, paint miniatures simply because it's fun. They're a creative and relaxing outlet. In other words, it's both a form of self-expression and a way to put yourself in a state of flow. Flow, or the concept of flow experience, is the state of complete mental immersion in a given activity. The individual is both rigorously challenged and in an environment where they can demonstrate skillfulness. If you've ever lost track of time after starting an activity, you've most likely experienced a state of flow. Flow was introduced in Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's 1975 Beyond Boredom and Anxiety. His formal model of flow illustrates that flow is that sweet spot between challenges and ability, where one experiences an alignment between both high challenge and high ability in the task at hand, losing themselves within the chosen task. You think of little else besides the activity. The core component of this theory stipulates that we do certain activities simply because of the intrinsic enjoyment they bring us, rather than for an external reward.
Once those conditions are present, what you're doing becomes worth doing for its own sake.
Furthermore, multiple studies link consistent flow activity with long-term life well-being, promoting higher levels of memory, creativity, pleasure, and decreased levels of depression. Importantly, not every activity can bring us into that state of flow. Oftentimes, flow activities have some sort of cost, physical or mental, to start, a potential barrier to experiencing flow. Positive psychology researchers Schiffer and Roberts in 2018 note, people know that flow activities facilitate happiness better than more passive leisure, and yet they are not doing these activities because it seems they do not know how to overcome the activation energy or transition costs required to pursue true enjoyment. Miniature painting, to someone with no prior art experience, sounds like a daunting task with a significant time commitment. If the goal of painting miniatures is to make us feel happy, then why not just scroll on our phones or watch a show? Those activities seem to bring a significant amount of happiness for such a minimal effort. When we have downtime, those kinds of passive activities can bring us joy, but only temporary, short-term happiness. Scrolling through short-form content, such as on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or Instagram Reels, keeps us feeling engaged through constantly refreshing dopamine spikes. In other words, new content every refresh. Flow activities, which challenge and immerse us, bring about long-term, enduring levels of dopamine over a longer period of time. It can be activities such as gaming, physical activity, or even a conversation with a close friend. As long as we overcome the perceived startup costs, the benefits of miniature painting are achievable for almost anyone. The way we communicate about miniature painting, or even any new skill or hobby, to ourselves and to others can pose as the startup cost as well. When faced with an interest in learning something completely new or alien, there is a tendency to dissuade ourselves from even beginning. In the case of miniature painting, phrases such as, "I'm not really a good artist," or "I probably don't have the skills to do that," are common phrases onlookers say when shown fully painted miniatures, often done by those who have been practicing the hobby for years. However, this kind of communication limits the potential growth and rewards that can be found within the hobby if only we can take the leap and get started. Flow activities give us the ability to find enjoyment in something simply for the sake of doing it. This is where miniature painting comes into play. The act of painting and creating something entirely unique to you is its inherent reward. As you paint, you challenge yourself to express your conceptual ideas on a three-dimensional canvas. As you paint more and more, your skill level grows. The more skilled you are, the more effectively you are able to meet the challenges you pose to yourself as you design and paint. Thus, you are put in a state of flow. Again, not every activity can put you in an equally challenged but skilled zone, which is what makes miniature painting so applicable for this kind of experience. There is much skill to be developed at your desired pace, keeping you engaged and immersed. Motivation, both intrinsic, motivation from the self, and extrinsic, motivation from external factors like money or pressure, is a huge factor in deciding what we engage in and what we commit resources to. But how do we know what activities drive and motivation? Self-determination theory, or SDT for short, argues that human motivation is dictated by three different needs. Number 1, need for autonomy. Do we feel like we can do this on our own? Number 2, need for competence. Do we feel like we are skilled enough to handle this task? Number 3, need for relatedness. Do we feel connected to others when we engage in this task? In an educational context, instructors use SDT to help others find the intrinsic motivation to learn an activity by establishing these needs. According to a study by Ryan and Deci in 2020, teachers who support students' autonomy begin attempting to understand, acknowledge, and, where possible, be responsive to students' perspectives. They also try to provide opportunities for students to take ownership and initiative of their schoolwork, providing them with meaningful choices and tasks that can engage their interests. Therefore, instructors in miniature painting would most likely posit, number 1, miniature painting at its base level is entirely driven by the painter. They choose what to paint, the materials they use, and the style of painting they adopt, entirely of their own volition. There may be outside influences or inspirations for these choices, but at the end of the day, it's the painter's choice for their project. Number 2, miniature painters expand their skill set the more miniatures they paint. The further they delve into the hobby and complete projects, the more they can compare their rising skillfulness in it. Each miniature painted is another achievement added to their repertoire or resume, a portfolio to look back on. Number 3, the very nature of miniature painting is a social process. Not only is there a community of like-minded painters and miniature enthusiasts both online and in local stores, but the people in our lives find this hobby interesting. Painting on such a small scale is an already impressive sight, especially for those who have never seen anything like it. Sharing techniques, recommendations, and finished pieces are all natural parts of this hobby. By establishing these qualities, miniature painting becomes something intrinsically motivating for the painter. Autonomy in miniature painting transforms it into something satisfying, where it could otherwise be another place of unfair comparison or stress. Constructive, respectful, and most importantly, detailed feedback allows painters to build competency in a healthy way alongside their community. Opening up opportunities to connect with the community enables painters to build relationships and networks with like-minded individuals. It is essential to recognize that not only can instructors meet this need for their students, but individuals can establish it for themselves as well. The motivational needs are established intrapersonally, communicated to ourselves. By now, you're probably eager to get started with miniature painting. I've so far established the what and why of miniature painting through the lens of some communicative theories. For the next module, I'll dive into the how, the practical aspects of the hobby, and where to get started. Again, utilizing communicative theories. I'll see you then, and thank you for watching.